Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com. And if you're like me, you've probably logged into the game, thrown in Liberty, and are clueless what to do, how to progress, and what activities and quests you should focus on every single day. Great, don't be a noob like me and watch this video. I'll give you some priorities to focus on, making your life a lot easier. Timestamps as well as written guides and builds are linked below, but don't be a filthy skipper. I need that lucrative YouTube ad revenue, am I right? Let's get started. Okay, so the overarching goal of your daily activities in Thrones and Liberty is just to simply get more powerful. This is an MMORPG with a lot of grindy, repetitive things. You can do this by upgrading your gear, advancing your skills, collecting new guardians, advancing morphs, and more. And the first thing you need to do when you log in is collecting your Amotoi, whatever the heck those little critters are called. They're rewards and you can send them out. So these are kind of like passive quests that you can do in the background and have their own progression system. And the reason they're important is you get materials you can use like manisil, leather, and especially cooking ingredients like salt. That's pretty rare early on to level up your cooking. Both cooking and these little critters have their own progression skill line, and getting those materials will help you level up both of them and get access to more powerful consumables that you can craft, and also eventually crafting gear. And salt in particular is very helpful immediately in the game if you're trying to advance your cooking. There's actually one cooking recipe I think you can get at level 4 that increases your experience gains. So this is super fast if you're trying to power level and max out your character to 50 as early as possible. Also, cooking is very important because it's mandatory for getting the best consumable items that give your character a buff. So you're gonna have to do it anyways, and you might as well do these things as soon as you log in so you don't forget it. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna send them out, and then you collect the rewards as you get them. You're gonna notice that there's gonna be different time bonuses as well as maximum amount of critters you can send out. What's worked best for me is usually about 4 hours. So if you're looking for material and not just abyssal contract tokens. So use the time to send them out as a benchmark for how often you're going to be online, and aim for right around 4 hours, you know, sneaking away on your lunch break at work, or quote unquote working from home. Am I right? Just keep spamming these. Now, once you got those spammed, you're getting some materials, you're going to want to do cooking. This is very important. So head to the village, the main hub city, and you're going to hit up 3 vendors, but first you want to do the sundries vendor for food. You're going to do contract coins for mystic keys and guild for other helpful consumables. So the sundry merchants, they're gonna sell just the usual stuff like world tree leaf, which is used for healing, some other consumable items, but you're gonna have items you can max out daily: eggs, golden rye, honey, along with resistance scrolls. So these are important because they're contracts for specific types of content, which we're going to cover later. So normally you go to a board where you can pick up 5 or whatever contracts. These are specifically related to individual content, specifically outside of just open world killing 10 rats and turning them in. They're very, very important. So every day you're going to want to come and buy this material if you can, along with those scrolls. Next, you got the material, you got some cooking ingredients, head to the stove, start your cooking in the top left. At this stage, you're really not concerned with min-maxing the recipe. You're looking to get the maximum amount of experience to continue to progress your cooking skill. And as you progress it, you're going to get better and more useful materials you might find in the open world, and more experience per thing that you craft. So there's going to be combat buffs that are very, very important. Okay, so now we got that done, we're going to head to contract coins and get some more items. You're going to have some daily limits here as well. And mystic keys is your most important one that you're going to want to buy straight away. You're also going to have a ton of daily limits on crafting materials, so don't just buy this randomly willy-nilly, because the currency is going to use contract coins, so you're not going to always have a limited amount of these. Now, if you scroll down, you're going to be some really helpful stuff here. Trade extraction stones, and then precious blessing pouch. These precious blessing pouches are very good. Once per day, you can buy one. It has a huge loophole, but it's going to give you a chance of getting a purple drop. This is going to be very big for you early on when you're going from greens to blues to purple. You'll eventually get to mid-max and find set bonuses and sweaty, really good weapons, but early on, this is huge just if you have extra contract coins laying around to come and buy this daily. You also have the green lithographs. Not that important depending on what level you are, but if you're missing an accessory or something like that very early on in the game, great. And then save up the materials for when you need it, so don't just feel like you need to spend them. Daily, you're going to want that mystic key, And as you're progressing, you don't have all purple gear, get that blessing pouch. Next up, one more thing to do, that's the guild merchant. So hopefully you're in a guild, you need to be, just spam them and say I'm the best sweaty player ever, let me in the guild. So you can get a hold of these materials. Two in particular you're gonna wanna buy is mana regen potions. You can use these puppies on cooldown. They're very cheap, very easy to get a hold of. And then the rare recovery crystal or recovery crystals, depending on what level you're at. These two you should buy, stock up, and get a gazillion of them. Now, it uses a guild coin, so a currency you're gonna use in the guild shop, which requires guild donations or guild contracts. Also, if you scroll down and you're very new to the game, you're gonna have rare special weapon selection chests. So if you got greens and you just are kind of at higher level and you haven't got that back bar weapon to blue, very easy to get this and immediately get an upgrade. So get the potions, get the mana recovery thing, and then upgrade those greens to blues really quick if you need to. Now, since we're on that topic, let's go ahead and pull up the UI and then go to guild. All right, on the guild, you're going to be able to donate. I would just recommend donating the soul ant, which is basically the gold, the currency. You can do 10 donations a day. That's really important. You come and click on the rewards and you can see that your guild is going to get rewards, which is essentially the currency based on guild donations and guild contracts. So think about chipping in here. You can see the score in the bottom right, and then a big, huge, sweaty, awesome chest if you fill this up and accept it. So make sure you're checking this every single day. There should be a little red diamond if you haven't, or you have a reward waiting. Now, one more thing to do since we're on user interface and banging out a couple quick things is go to your battle pass. If you have the battle pass, make sure to claim all your points and claim all rewards. You're going to get a lot of passive stuff here that is going to be pretty helpful. So make sure to use those materials to level up lingering, kind of slowly progressed weapons, skills, passive defensive skills, active skills, and so on. Okay, now that you got that done, and another thing to prioritize is the events. And kind of goofy here in this game, but they're time-based, meaning these events are not going to be up all the time and it's going to use military time, 1300, dress right dress, you know what I mean? So check the calendar and make sure you're centering your content along those lines of those important events. Now, keep in mind there's going to be co-op, guild, peace for all the hippies out there. This is going to determine if you're going to be doing PvP or PvE specifically. So if you don't want some sweat lord who's drinking Mountain Dew, playing 18 hours a day, hunting you down and one-shotting you, laughing while they're teabagging you, do the peace ones. These events also give a lot of achievements, so it's worth experimenting and seeing them, but you want to center your content, what you're going to do for that day, depending on how close you are to the event and what your priority is for that day. So pop up that screen, take a good look. Another thing you're going to pop up and take a look that's time-based and sensitive is Milestone. So Milestone is going to have a 24-hour timer roughly, and there's going to be various different things that you're going to have to do in order to beat this. Some of them revolve around guilds as well. This is really important to make progression in the game, especially with open world bosses. So if you're something that's lingering and you can just knock out a couple contracts as a guild or knock out a world boss, come in here because it's time sensitive. So those events are very time sensitive and you should be checking each once at least a day. Now, speaking of events, if you're going to go do farming events, depending on what you're doing, it's very helpful to have a build specifically designed for killing stuff in these events. It's usually just best to have like a longbow or a wand or a staff and play at range because you can gather up the critters and nuke them down very easily, where if you're a melee, you're just kind of having to gap close to one target after another. So very helpful if you're going to be doing this to set something up in your user interface. If you don't know how to do that, you click character information. It'll say equipment and stats in the bottom. Now this is where you can set up individual gear sets that you're going to use as you start getting and storing a lot more. And then when you go into your individual skills, you'll also see the same thing on the bottom middle, which will have a different skill and passive bar. So you can quickly basically change builds for grinding, farming, bossing, so on and so forth with 2 clicks of a button. This will save you a lot of time and energy instead of just lumbering around like my greatsword because I'm lazy. Don't be me. Now, once you're a fresh level 50, some of the best gear that I found to do is these co-op dungeons. So you're going to get a crap ton of them unlocked and available once you hit level 50 with a minimum combat power of 1600. If you're confused what your combat power is, go into character information, and in the bottom left, it will have this number, combat power. I'm usually at 1900 to 2000 when I was doing some of these end game ones, and that's not too bad. Now, the co-op dungeon, interestingly enough, will use dimensional contract tokens. You can see this, and you'll actually get 900 recharge every 24 hours. So that's why it's kind of important to keep an eye on this and not max them out, and use your time in game to kind of farm these. You also want to put your mouse over the individual bosses and prioritize what you need. So if you're a greatsword user, you might use one. If you're a tome and wand user, you might use another one, because the individual drops and loot tables are very specifically designed for builds in mind. Like in Cave of Destruction, it has this cool tome where your health goes below 20 and you can stealth for 3 seconds. An amazing PvP wand and tome, or just in general. So prioritize your time in game by knocking out at least one, if not 2, 3, 4 of these, to make sure you're not spilling over and wasting these contract tokens, because you're going to get more each and every day. Also be aware that they're going to have a wipe or a group wipe mechanic, so they're pretty easy to do, but your tank and or you need to make sure to know what the mechanic is in the dungeon on the final boss, not to wipe your group. And don't be a pug, let your tank pull the boss. If you don't know, that contract token is for the very last treasure, so opening it will consume 300 of those contract tokens. But if you're level 50 and maxed out, you'll want to consume them. If you're just power leveling and want to make sure you're maxed out when you hit endgame to start farming, then I wouldn't open them as you're leveling. All right, next up is contracts. Now, the game centers around contracts, and who doesn't love a good old MMORPG where you have to go kill 10 rats 100 times over and over and over every single day? Am I right? Well, this is no different. But the difference is you have contracts that are given to you at various contract boards via the contract manager. These are not like the super sweaty end game, oh my god, how I get the best gear. They're going to give you some materials, they're going to give you the currency, and they're going to give you the contract coins. So they're definitely worth doing. You can find different ones, and if you hit the N key on PC, there'll be a resistance contract. It'll say recommended contract managers and give you locations. So typically you want to do the latest end game one for the best results. Now, what's interesting is the contract scrolls. These are what gives you the heavy hitter, awesome, basically daily contracts that you can do. So you can get the contract scrolls in a bunch of different ways. We already talked about it earlier, but you can get allied resistance focused contract scrolls from buying them at a vendor, and then you can kind of see which ones you have. You're going to want to target specific content that you're able to complete either solo and or a group, or your buddies have some other objective that they're going to try to do, and then pop those scrolls open and go focus on that content for the day. So don't be a noob just like me and go, contracts are boring, they don't reward you any gear or nothing. You should still be doing the ones at the contract manager, whether you're at level 50 or not, but those scrolls are going to give you access to more important and impactful gear specific design ones that you should be knocking out. Try to lump them together and open up a bunch from one specific content that you're going to focus on for the day. Now, one specifically you're probably going to be doing is Abyssal Dungeons, which kind of didn't make sense to me as I was leveling and progressing. Abyssal Dungeons have a lot going on. They got good rewards, their own currency, contracts, and other achievements and everything else you would expect in an open world dungeon. When I say open world, it means it's not instance based, so people can come in, come out, they can try to mess with your polls and so on. When I do these, I usually just walk in and say, hey, anyone looking for a group? And I usually get an invite pretty much straight away. And then there's probably 4 to 5 people grinding individual mobs down in here, making it much faster to kill stuff. Now, the currency you need to be aware of is in the top right of your UI called Abyssal Contract Tokens. So what this is going to do is give you extra experience, it's going to get extra currency and better drops. But as you kill stuff, you consume these contract tokens, and you can earn more via resistance contracts. You get the point here. So you're doing contracts to fill up your currencies, and you're going out and doing that specific content, using those tokens and currencies to get gear and so forth. So what you're going to try to do if you're going to do Abyssal Dungeons is you're going to try to pop those resistance scrolls that have the specific Abyssal Dungeon that you're going to do, and then go in there, find a group, and then use those Abyssal Contract tokens to hopefully get better materials, better loot drops, and or boss kills, so you can get really, really good drops within there. Now, there are 2 specific ones you're going to be doing depending on your specific level or what you're focused on. There is, I can't pronounce it, Celis Abyss, something like that. Yeah, kill me in the comments. You know I can't read. Anyways, you can click on this and it'll give you individual things to do per floor that you're on as part of your exploration codex. This is also helpful if you don't have any contracts and you want to explore. It gets harder and harder as you go down. It's designed for level 20 all the way to 50. Then there's the Shadowed Crypt. Now, this is level 50 end game stuff. Also has the exploration codex as well as resistant contracts. And these contracts, if you get them, are very, very lucrative for drops and or materials. So as you're leveling, do the one and then switch gears and do the Shadow Crypt, or you can go back and do the other one just to knock out some of the codexes and see how the content is. You can click on the individual monsters that are in on these individual floors and it gives you their loot pool. You're looking for a specific piece of content to do and wondering, is this worth my time doing it? No, probably not grinding a blue greatsword when you need a purple. So make sure you're spending your time wisely, going after the stuff that's going to make you more powerful. Another quick tip related to gear, because I'm a noob and I didn't see this, so if you're a noob like me, this may be helpful. Go to the shop, go to ornate coins at the bottom. You're going to scroll down by the middle of the thing here and it says precious blessing pouch. Talked about this a little bit earlier, but that's the big loot table that has tons of stuff. Once per month, you can get 15 of these. So these are actually pretty cheap, and I had like 2,500 playings. I never really bought much, I don't think. I didn't know what these were for. And so I spent a bunch of them and got a couple different good drops from here. And then I used the rest of them for my lithograph. So if you're struggling to get purples, don't know where to go, don't know what to do, just boom, come in here and make sure you consume those once a month if you want. It also got straight extraction stones, and it has that drip, you know, dye and sewing thread. So if you want to look good, you know, play good. So make sure to get that. Now, another thing to focus on. We've talked about dailies, but this is going to lead into weekly missions. You just play the game a lot and you're probably going to be able to knock out these weekly missions passively. It's just basically doing stuff, you guessed it, contracts, right? Dynamic events, PvP stuff, guild rep, guild contracts, and so forth. But if it's going towards the end of the week and you may have taken a couple days off because you have a life, imagine doing that, then you want to come check here, and if you knock out your dailies that I've given you earlier, you can just go, hey, I might need to do 2 guild contracts, and then bang, I can get my weekly reward. Very good idea to maximize your time in game and make as much progress as possible per day and or per week. So keep in mind on these. Okay, so that's a lot going on, and this is just a general idea of what to do and focus on daily. So let's say you skipped ahead in the timestamps because you think my voice is annoying and I'm done. Great, leave me a comment at least. Here's the thing you need to prioritize per day to recap what I spoke at 150 words per minute to you really quickly. Number 1, check events and milestones. So see if there's any critical time-sensitive activities you need to complete immediately or around a time you're going to be logged in. Number 2, send out the little critters, Amotos or whatever, and get the crafting material. Number 3, as soon as you get the crafting material, use that to level up your cooking. Number 4, do your daily shopping runs to those 3 vendors in the main hub city. Number 5, I think, yeah, gather up contracts for the day and resistance contract scrolls. Number 6, prioritize knocking out the general contracts, but then focus on knocking out some of those specific to the content you plan on doing that day. A number I can't remember. Next, do co-op dungeons if you have those dimensional contract tokens that are accumulating. And then once you finish knocking out your daily priorities, make sure you keep an eye on your weeklies and that you're getting those done. Then have fun with the game. Imagine having fun in a video game and not just doing chores in MMORPG. Am I right? So I'm going to work on gearing my character for PvP, and I really found it difficult to find out like what to do next and why. So if this video helped you, leave me a comment because YouTube loves interactions, and smash that thumbs up, and I appreciate you watching.